Hey guys, what is up? It's Rainy here, and today we are checking out the minigame on RuneScape called Shattered Worlds. Shattered Worlds is a minigame that was released on the 2nd of May 2017 to RuneScape. It is located in the Lumbridge Swamp, directly south of the Lumbridge crater. If you head south from the lodestone as well into the swamp, you won't really miss it. It is very easy to find. The easiest way to get there is by teleporting with the Wicked Hood to the water altar, and then you're basically in the lobby already. Here you will find the Abyssal Knights. This new group of NPCs is a merge of the Temple Knights of Falador mixed with the Void Knights. There's been a portal here in this location for a long time, and they've been trying to stop the portal from activating. I've never seen this place before in my life. The temple wasn't there before, it is there now, I don't know. It must have surfaced from underground, but whatever. So a character called the Anima Witch has broken the seal on the portal, and now we're on the verge of getting attacked by rather aggressive abyssal creatures. The lobby consists of the main guy you can talk to if you want some lore from this. You can also check out the bank or the reward shop, which is on the right side. There's also 2 portals you can enter, and those start the minigame. Layout-wise, it's very easy, it's nice, it's open, and there's not much else to say about it. The graphics look really nice. If you're wondering about requirements for this, there are absolutely no requirements, but it is recommended that you have about 40 in at least one combat stat, and if I'm completely honest, you won't get most of the rewards if you don't have a high combat level, because you will need to do a lot of the high worlds to be able to afford anything, really. So why do you want to play this minigame? Well, there are 2 new abilities that are quite cool, actually, that you can buy from this minigame with the currency. First off, there is Bladed Dive, which is a new level 65, I believe, melee dual wield ability. It works pretty much the way Surge works, oddly enough, but it does damage. It does 125% weapon damage onto the creature that you click. The cool thing about it is it works like Surge, so you click an enemy with it and you jump straight to the enemy. Now, if you kill the enemy within 3 seconds, the cooldown of the ability resets and you can use it over again instantly. If you don't want to use it for combat, you can actually use it just like a Surge. You can click on it, click a tile, and you'll just jump straight to the tile. And it doesn't set Surge on cooldown, so you can use this alongside with Surge if you want to. The second ability is called Salt the Wound, which is a new level 65, I believe, range ability that works together with a different ability. By buying this ability, you will get an augmented or upgraded version of Dazing Shot, which is a 2-hand range ability, probably one you're familiar with. It is one of the better range basics. So it gives Dazing Shot an extra buff when you cast it. It will now apply 1 puncture onto your enemy, and the more punctured you have on your enemy, the higher Salt the Wound, the new ability, will hit. And you can stack up to 10 punctured onto your enemy. So straight off the bat, I believe if you have 0 punctured on your enemy, the new threshold for range gives about 40 to 190% weapon damage. But if you have 10 punctured on your enemy, it hits 112, I believe, all the way up to 380% weapon damage. So it's ridiculous. Like, it probably is one of the most hard-hitting thresholds you can get for range now, if you have 10 punctured. Now, the thing about punctured is it will set itself as a timer, so it'll count down, I believe it's from 10 seconds, and you want to keep the punctured buff going. So by casting more Dazing Shot, you will increase the punctured amount and also reset the cooldown. But also casting Salt the Wound will refresh the cooldown, but not add any more punctured. So you might be slightly confused about all this, but it makes sense if you try it out. You basically just want to keep punctured on your enemy, and then Salt the Wound will do more damage if you have more punctured on them. There are also 2 new pets you can get from this minigame. There's the Anima Creature, which has 9 stages, oddly enough, and it goes from like this cute little kind of willow scaling pet ripoff to this kind of cool like Anima Raptor thing. And could we like just take a second to appreciate the names this creature has? Wisp, Mist, Animagoo, Animawal. It's Wall, isn't it? Yeah, I think so. Animaru, Animaraptor, Animasaur, Animasaurus, Animasaurus Rex. And it has some really cute dialogue as well. Like, once it will playfully bounce on your head, and it's just like this goop of anima, basically. It's floating behind you. There's also a very rare chance of getting the Abyssal Hound from looting the chest in the minigame. And I'll have the pet on the screen now so you can check it out. Now, I'm very happy they added in the armor that the Abyssal Knights use as well as an override that you can buy from the shop, because the armor looks pretty sweet. And there is a new equipment slot that got released with this update as well. It's called the Sigils slot, and it looks like a little swirl swirly rock that you can have, almost like a runestone, that you have on the left side of your interface. And there are only 3 things that go into this slot as of currently. First up, it's the Sigil of Slaying, which gives you 10% more Slayer experience for, I think it is 30 seconds, and the Sigil has a 60-second cooldown. Second off, we have the Ferocious Sigil, which instantly respawns all NPCs either in your area or in Kuradal's dungeon, but at least it respawns the enemies in Kuradal's dungeon, and it also has a 60-second cooldown. And then third is the Aggression Sigil, and this one will aggro everything around you at the same time and pull it towards you, and it also has a 60-second cooldown. Now, looking at these, they're quite odd because I have mixed opinions on the sigils themselves. They act a lot like the treasure hunter scrimshaws that you could get for a while, like the scrimshaw of sacrifice, aggression, and I think it is, I can't remember the last one, corruption. I don't completely remember the names, but they do essentially the same thing, but they do it combined with each other. So there's one that gives you Slayer experience as well as makes everything aggressive. Now these don't work as well as the aggression potion, which is the best thing that you could be using. So I mean, they're rather niche use, I think, and I feel like they just like copied the thing from the effects from other things. So are they useful? I don't know. Maybe niche use. What I find odd is why they needed to make a new equipment slot for this, because they seem very much like pocket slot items, so maybe they just wanted to release them so you could wear them at the same time as pocket slot items, but I don't really get it. I mean, they work essentially the same way that blood essences work. Like, they literally work exactly like blood essences work. Blood essences, you have to recharge them. You have to recharge the sigils with anima currency that you get from the minigame. You activate blood essences, and you can activate them about like every minute or something, same as sigils. The only difference from blood essences and sigils is that blood essences will occasionally activate by themselves. Sigils, I don't believe, ever activate by themselves. So honestly, they just feel like pocket slot items. It doesn't feel necessary to have like a new pocket slot for them, because it is essentially just a second pocket slot. Second off, we'll need to talk about the layout of this, because there are 2 different layouts you can do. You can use the one where you can see your character, or you can use the one where you only see your equipment. Personally, I use the one where I can see my character, because I like seeing my character. But on this one, it looks alright. I don't have any complaints about it. It replaced the wing slot on it, which is whatever. I mean, it didn't do anything anyway. And personally, if I'm completely honest, the gloves being below the body is more triggering to me than this new slot is, because the gloves, in my opinion, should be below the legs, and then you have head, body, legs, gloves, and then boots. But that's a completely different rant. I'm not going to get into that. Now, onto the interface where you don't see your character. It looks very weird. It looks like it's squeezed into the top left, and it doesn't... Oh, it's just not symmetrical at all. Oh my god, my heart. I get it that it's more work moving 3 slots to like a different spot than just squeezing a new slot up there. And when auras came out, there was also a not symmetrical design to all this. Then it got saved by the pocket slot. So, I mean... I guess I'm just glad I don't use that interface. But yeah, it just looks kind of weird. But I guess, like, they could move lots of slots, but that's extra dev work, and they could focus that on something else. You can leave your comments below about it. If you hate it a lot, do leave a comment saying you do. If you don't really mind, I don't really mind personally. It is kind of ugly, but it's like what it is. Then do leave that in the comment section below as well, so we can kind of gauge, like, do you really dislike it versus like people who don't care? Oh yeah, and I should mention that the sigils, to recharge them, it costs half the price of what a new one would cost in the shop. And last but not least of the rewards, this is a long segment, isn't it? You can buy every single Slayer mask in this shop. Now, keep in mind, these items were treasure hunter items, and they still are treasure hunter items. So obviously, Jagex will want to push them more through treasure hunter. Like, you want to get them through Treasure Hunter, but now there is a free version, or free way of getting them. People have been like, oh, it is so expensive, and I don't need to spend like 2 weeks to get all of these rewards. Don't know why I went Italian there for a second. No, but seriously, like, compare them to Hunto armor. Those took frickin' forever to get as well if you didn't get them through Treasure Hunter, so I didn't expect them to be easy to get, if they ever were possible to get. I mean, with this edition, you can actually now get them on Ironman accounts. Like, if I had opened the shop and the Slayer masks hadn't been there, I wouldn't have thought, oh, I wish Slayer masks were in this shop because this is the perfect place for them. Because I don't feel that way. I'm just kind of, I guess, happy that they added them somehow. I mean, they could have just not added them at all. Treasure hunter items have always been difficult to get if you don't pay for them. I guess with the exclusion of the skilling outfits, but to be fair, they're like 15 years old now. That's an over-exaggeration, don't take me literally on that, but you get my point. Right, so you're probably saying to yourself, Jesus, Rainy, just tell me how to play the minigame already. Patience, my child, we're getting into that now. So, once you've geared yourself up, you don't necessarily need to do that, but just hear me out. You want to head to the red or blue portals. Wait, where have I heard this before? Am I getting a Matrix reference? Ah, yes, I am. Nice. Right, so the blue portal takes you to the standard game mode for Shattered Worlds. The red one is a challenge portal where you can do a set challenge on a single world, and you'll get like a boost of anima when you do that. These world challenges will reset every Wednesday, so it's a new weekly on cooldown. There are 3 different challenges. There's the bronze, silver, and gold challenge. They increase in difficulty, obviously. The bronze one is fairly simple. I believe the first one is just complete 5 worlds. The silver one is kill 50 spiders this week with a set amount of mutators, so they will give you a different set of buffs and debuffs. I'll get into mutators a little bit later. And the third one is the same as silver, so kill X amount of NPCs with a set amount of mutators. These will give you anything from 10,000 anima, I think, or 100,000, to 500,000 and 1 million on gold. As for the blue portal, your aim is basically to kill 75% of the enemies inside of this shattered world, and then you want to move on through the portal to the next shattered world and do the same thing. So you're basically just jumping through these different platforms in abyssal space, killing off enemies, and then moving to the next platform to do it. And you want to do it as fast as possible, because you will find a chest every 5 worlds, and that also acts like a checkpoint. So you can say, you can go from world 1 to 10, and then you can start from world 11 at a later date if you have to log off or something. So it saves your worlds 5 at a time, and you can start from there again. You don't necessarily have to stop after 5 worlds either. You can streak it up, so you can go from 1 to 50 if you want to, and just gather all the anima from all those worlds. Though I do not think that you get much for streaking. I don't think it's a huge difference in anima per hour. You may get a slight boost if you streak, but there's no real need to do streaking. So you can keep that in mind while doing it. You'll save some time because you won't have to open the chest, watch the animation when it opens, select your worlds again, select new mutators, and you can bank even though you're not ending off your session. The checkpoint works as a banking mechanic, so there's a chest there, and then you can just jump right through and continue your streak if you want to. And the reason you want to do this as fast as possible is because if you do it within, I believe, 3 minutes, if you clear a world and jump through the portal within 3 minutes, you skip the next world. That means you save anywhere between 1 and 2 minutes if you're doing this really fast. And you'll get to the reward chest faster. So the deal is you want to do the highest world you can do, where you still are able to do them fast enough to skip the worlds. I'll get into rates at the closer to the end of the video, and how you should be playing this minigame to get the best rewards possible. Now, when you're doing this minigame, you might find some oddities. What I mean by that is side objectives, something that doesn't seem right. So sometimes you'll find a shield. If you break the shield, there's a book. You can take that to some pedestals, and you'll get a slight currency increase. There's a fountain you can kill ghosts at, and you have to kill the ghosts within a set amount of time. There's also a chest where it spawns tons and tons of enemies, and you just have to kill those as fast as possible. And there's also gobies running around. You can also kill Shawnee, and I actually did on release day. Not completely proud of myself, but hear me out. These creatures are, lore-wise, they're actually abyssal creatures that have taken the shape of different things they've seen around the world. Because the deal with this minigame is, through teleportation magic, teleportation has caused rifts in the abyssal space, and anima has flown through and created these fractured, shattered worlds. And the NPCs here are actually abyssal creatures that have taken the shape, so everything here is actually just fake versions of things you've probably seen elsewhere. So killing a Gobi, especially killing Shawnee the Gobi, you're not actually killing Shawnee the Gobi, you're killing the abyssal demon creature called Shawnee the Gobi. Maybe this makes you feel slightly better when you're doing genocide and killing everything during the minigame. Right, so let's talk a little bit about mutators, because they play a big part in this minigame. Mutators come in the form of positive, neutral, and negative. A mutator is something that changes the gameplay of either yourself or the NPCs you're facing. They also have the ability to change the area, and sometimes it can be the deciding factor of if you're able to actually complete worlds or if you die horribly and really fast. I'll list some of my favorites because there are quite a few, so I'd recommend, like, if you want to check them out yourself, go on the RuneScape wiki and just search for Shadowed Worlds, and they will have the list there, or you can try the minigame yourself. I mean, it is a lot of fun. So my first pick of the negatives is combustion. Now, this one is bad, let me throw that out there, but the idea behind it is some NPCs will spawn fires, static fires that just are on the ground. The reason I love this one, or like it a little bit, is because it does damage enemies. It will damage you if you walk into it. But it's so cool seeing everything on fire. 1 minute into the round and you just see fire everywhere. It's so great. Explosive is a neutral one, and I have a kind of love-hate relationship with it, because it basically means that when you kill something, it has a chance of exploding, dealing 1000 damage. It can explode if it's melee distance. It explodes on you. But the reason I like it is because if there's a stack of 5 enemies and you kill like 2 of them will explode, and then the others will explode, and then there's just like a chain reaction of explosions, and that's kind of cool too. Now, one of my favorite positive ones is feeling pumped. This one gives you unlimited adrenaline and completely fills it up for 10 seconds, and you can basically just shoot out all of your ultimates at this point. And it actually procs very often as well, so it's definitely one you'll have to look out for if you see it. Zone of Restoration is another positive one that I really like, because it spawns these zones where you can stand on them, and they will heal your summoning, prayer, and life points. And they do it really fast as well, so it's definitely a really nice one. If you're struggling a bit, you can just take a step back, just jump into a few of these restoration shields, and then you can just go ham afterwards. And then I have to shout out, the last one is Unstable Rifts. This one I'd say is more of a negative. I think it was a neutral one, but I say it's negative. It spawns these rifts around the map, and they completely bounce around randomly. I've only had it once because I wanted to try out what it was. You could be running towards the final portal after you've done everything, and a rift just spawns in front of you and sends you back to start. They send you flying all over the place. They can spawn underneath you while you're killing enemies and teleport you straight into a pile of other enemies. And it's just ridiculous. It's chaotic, it's kind of fun, but it's so fucking annoying. Oh yeah, and zombie apocalypse chickens. I thought it was gonna be cuckoos attacking you from all over the place. They just kind of walk around and explode, but zombie apocalypse chickens. So, to summarize, before I get into the rates, I have to say I just absolutely love this minigame. It's so fun to play. Some people have been getting tired of it. I've been enjoying every second of it. Like, pushing to the highest floor possible you can do, and then also just trying to speedrun these as fast as possible. Because essentially it is PVM speedrunning at this point. You're doing Slayer, but you're trying to do it as fast as possible to get that skip over the next world, so you can get your anima really fast. There are some negatives to this, just hear me out first, but I want to say, like, props to the devs on this one, because I absolutely love it. The gameplay is great. I don't know what to say, really. It's just cool. The graphics are so good. They're stunning. It's so nice to see these things. There's 7 different biomes that you can play through on these worlds. There's Missalin, Mauritania, the Arctic one, Tardiad, Mazcab, Eastern Lands Arc, and Frenesque. And these biomes come in the form of both the Shattered World themselves, but also the reward room can look like all these 7 biomes. And it just looks so good. I love it. Even though it's like reskinned from other content, it just looks really good, and the way it's generated is just really nice. Now, with this in mind, there have been some issues with invisible walls and boxes that you can't run over. I don't know how many times I've surged into an invisible wall in the middle of an open field. Really annoying, but it's the minor thing, and I don't think that really drags down the graphic work because it's so nice. But it's definitely something that needs to get fixed, because when there's like an open field and you surge and you get like 2 squares on the surge because there's an invisible wall right in front of you. It's really frustrating. Now as for the music, oh my god, the music is so good. I'm just gonna play a few tracks here because it's just the work that went into it. They basically mixed lots of different familiar tunes into these battle upbeat remixes, and it just sounds really nice. Anything from the familiar tracks around Missalin like Varrock, Lumbridge, and then going to things like RainyScape and Children of Ma, they have tracks from that. They have Arc tracks, they have Tardiad tracks, everything is a battle remix, and it's so cool to just listen to them. They're probably some of my favorite tracks now, because they've combined my favorite tracks into like an upbeat battle version, and it's just so awesome. It gets so pumped. It's the perfect music for something like this activity. Though, granted, after 10 hours of the pumped up music, I was so exhausted on day of release. But oh, I just love the music tracks. They're so nice. It really does play on this nostalgia of it, and then just, oh, they're just so good. I can't put words to it. Huge props to the audio team and the graphics team. On 10 out of 10 on both of them. And heck, even the gameplay is really fun, so I'd give that a high score as well. It's very fast-paced, it's basically speedrunning Slayer, like I said earlier. And even the rewards are very varied. You have everything from pets to cosmetics to useful new cool abilities that you could use for many different things. I could see the new range ability being used for all kinds of high-level PvM. And the melee ability could be used for killing off weaker enemies really fast, just jumping to them all over the place with melee. The Sigils, I don't know if they're that useful or not, and I still don't understand the new pocket slot that we got with this. But overall, the rewards added in with the Slayer masks, there's a lot to choose from, and there's a lot to work towards, and that's really nice in my opinion. Though you could argue they're kind of expensive, and that's the next section we're going to get into. So, the currency. The currency. This is the reason why this video is quite late. It's already a few days after launch and I still haven't completely released this. The video's out now, but it's taken a few days extra. And the reason is because I've been trying to get consistent rates with the currency to try to find like a good medium ground and like where average people would be while getting currency, whereas maybe meta people would be getting a lot more. That's what I've spent most of my time doing the past like 3 days. So let's get into it. I have lots of paper here, because I've done lots of data. Wait, what was that? They're changing the rates! Are you freaking serious? Well, screw this! So, half my data is irrelevant. Or is it? Okay, so my rates might not be changing that much, because the change they're making, or they have made now, once you're seeing this, is that on release, you tend to splash a lot. Everything was kind of like neutral against you. The defense would scale higher and higher. It still does that, but now everything is weak towards you, and it's not as penalizing, I guess. Granted, you still do end up splashing, just at a higher world number than before. Right, so keep in mind, when you're doing this, if you're not doing meta gameplay, which what I mean by that is full tectonic, tier 90s, maybe tier 92s, I don't have that, but I've been testing with tier 90s. Nihil, Scrimshaws, Overloads, tier 95 prayers constantly, and Ancient Magics, which costs a lot, I found out after doing this. Like, that's meta up there. Even Cannon you could bring with you in here. All those things. And you'll be getting, like, the really nice rates. Anything below that, you'll be getting alright rates, but it could even half your currency income by not using all those things. But like with those things, there are many variables to the currency rate that you'll be getting while doing this. Anything from the layout of the world to which mutators you get. Notably, if you're doing meta gameplay, the mutators don't change that much, but the gear you're using and your PvM skills will take into account on this. And your ability bar, VS if you're using lots of AoEs or if you're not. I'd say, like, if you're doing this, use as many AoEs as possible. Just use anything that you have that does AoEs. Alright, so I'll just overlay my data on the screen for this. But before the defense change, I was seeing like rates at around, like, keep in mind I was using like Virtus, so tier 80 power armor with tier 90 weapons. I wasn't really going ham, so I wasn't using overloads and stuff like that, but I was using prayers. And I was getting like 2.5 million an hour was the best I could do. Then after the defense change, I switched up my setup a bit. I switched out my strategy for this a bit, and I went over to ancient magics as well. So I'd be using corruption blast, or chain, and fire breath as much as possible, while also using things like ice barrage and blood barrage. And you can see like my rates just skyrocketed at that point. Like for these I was using tectonic as well, so I was using augmented and perk tectonic. These rates on the right are like my top tier meta rates, and I could consistently get 4.6 to 5.5 anima per hour doing like that. I mean, heck, today when I was using my tectonic for this, I spent like 10,000 charges out of the 465,000 charges I have, and I actually managed to siphon the armor twice already. Like, the XP rates you get at high worlds is insane. It's really nice. Like on worlds 85 plus, I was getting upwards of 850,000 experience in magic per hour. I mean, I even managed to hit like 1 million magic XP per hour just doing these things. And like my total experience gained, adding in constitution as well, it was like 1.2 million XP per hour. And then if you add in invention as well, I was getting like 300,000 invention XP per hour from siphoning my tectonic. So like 1.5 mil total XP per hour doing like top end Shattered Worlds. Like for a minigame, it's really nice. But it comes with the cost, of course. So there's two ways of getting currency. You can grind out the worlds that you've completed already. And if you're doing this, if you're casually doing it, I was getting, with my Virtus, about 2.5 mil an hour. Now, when I went crazy with my tectonic and going complete meta with this, I was getting 4.8 to 5.5 million anima per hour, so about double the anima per hour. Now, you also get a new top world completion bonus. So if, say, you've never done World 95 before, and you complete World 95, you'll get a bonus chunk of anima. This is by far the best way to get anima. I don't think most people will get past 200, if I'm completely honest. If anybody gets to 200, I'll be impressed. But at some point, it's probably not even worth pushing anymore, because I almost think that the anima bonus would cap at some point, and the HP and difficulty would just keep increasing. I mean, you can go to 4,000. It's not actually possible, I don't think. I mean, I would be so mind blown if somebody got to 4,000, but like they purely added the top world be 4,000 purely because they could. Like I mean, getting past 200 is probably gonna be a feat even if they don't do anything about the splashing thing, because, I mean, your accuracy just can't keep up with the defense increase. But, so let's say you grind all the rewards out through the 2.5 mil an hour, pretty casual way. It takes about 185 hours to get every single item that is unique to this minigame. Now, I'm not looking at the Slayer masks because they're treasure hunter, and treasure hunter things tend to be overpriced as all heck. So, I mean, I'm ignoring those for now because they're treasure hunter items. But the unique items you can get from this minigame take 185 hours if you're doing it casually. If you're doing it meta, with tectonic and all that, it takes about half that time. So about 90 hours, 95 hours, something like that. And that's to get all 3 sigils, both abilities, all of the pet unlocks, the cosmetic override. I think that's about it. And keep in mind there's also a pet you need to get, which is like very rare from the chest itself, so hopefully you get that within the time. And if we compare this to a couple things, it takes about 13 hours to get Superior Void Knight, so that's a fraction of this. But then you could argue these abilities are better than Void Knight, and I've seen people compare the abilities here to Tuska's abilities. Now keep in mind the Tuska thing was from a world event holiday thing, and they didn't want people to grind it forever afterwards to get it. But the thing I compared this to was the most insane minigame out there, Castle Wars, of course. Getting all the rewards from this is the same as getting a piece of profound armor from completely just doing Castle Wars without Thaler at all. If you got everything from this minigame, it's about the same as getting one piece of profound armor. So, I mean, anima rates, arguably I don't really mind them that much. They're not a huge negative for me, to be honest, because people should be spending some time with this minigame. You shouldn't be able to get every single reward from the minigame within like 2 days of launch. that seems ridiculous to me, because they spent 5 months developing this, so I mean, of course they want people to play it a bit. So, like, 2 weeks to get the rewards doesn't seem like a lot to me. Like, heck, you could even get in, like, 1.5 weeks if you did it really fast. Now, my biggest complaint about the minigame is probably gonna have to be the degrade and supply cost, because, oh my god, I've spent so much money on food and potions on this minigame, it's ridiculous. Like, they supply you with equipment up to level 60, so you get, like, a level 60 hybrid armor or something like that. There's no way you can do anything remotely useful with this armor. And they also supply you with food that heals you 1,500. You get like puro chickens or something like that. Again, they're worse than sharks. So, I mean, sharks are 1k each. You might as well just bring sharks. If you die, you don't lose any charge, so it's completely safe death. But the recharge of your armor goes down a lot if you don't have augmented gear. Augmented gear works a bit different from normal gear. This is a whole different video explaining that in itself, but essentially, if you're not augmented, then your charge rate goes down very fast if lots of enemies are attacking you. For invention, it doesn't go down faster if there's more enemies attacking you. There's a static decrease in time, but the charge goes down fast if it's not augmented. So anything like Barrows, Virtus, and all the next gear, really, anything that isn't augmented, that degrades, basically, would drain really fast during this minigame. Now, it would be kind of odd to stop drain for this minigame purely, but again, it's like the main thing, because you're not gaining any profits from doing this minigame. It's a consistent pure loss from doing it, and it does feel kind of bad seeing your rune metrics, at least I have that, just going down. Like, I lost 10 mil on the first day, 8 mil today, I believe. And it does kind of suck. I do think they could have added a prayer altar in the lobby, as well as just healing for the bank area, and maybe just reset your prayer when you leave the portal, because nothing of this restores at all, and you have to, like, drink, like, half doses in your bank just to restore. It's kind of frustrating. Another negative is it does get slightly repetitive, because there is only one objective per Shadowed World, and that is kill 75% of enemies. It does almost seem like they made it with more objectives in mind, because it tells you every single Shadowed World, you have a new objective, kill 75% of the enemies. And then you're like, I know, I've done 25 worlds, or 30 worlds, or 70 worlds, or 90 worlds, and it's told me the exact same thing every single world. I also do feel that there's a lack of competitive aspect to it, because there is no high score table. I do know they wanted to add that, but they ran out of development time. So seeing that added would be really nice. But as well, like, they pitched this at Summer Summit last year as something that could be an esport thing. Face off against another person and try to speedrun. You could see, like, a shadow of them, and they'd have, like, their own Shadowed World, or maybe, like, it was the same world, but they had to kill their own instance enemies, and you'd have to race that person through the world to do it as fast as possible. And there's, like, nothing like that, and that would be so cool, because it would add a completely new element of gameplay to the entire minigame. So something for the future, maybe. I don't know if they're gonna keep developing this or not, but that would be really nice, because it was kind of what it was pitched as at the start. So yeah, multiplayer, speedrun high scores, maybe like a high score for the highest world completed by X person as well would be cool. And yeah, all of those things are, like, things that I wish were there. They don't have to be there, because they don't need to be there for the core gameplay to be fun, because I do think it is fun. But it would, like, add another layer to it, I suppose. So it does add into the overall score of this. Though with all this said, like, all the negatives this time have been very nitpicky, and overall I just really enjoy the minigame. So my overall score for this minigame is a very strong 8 out of 10. I would up it to 9 out of 10 if the balancing was a little bit better, and by that I mean, like, anima rates could be slightly better, like, not too much, but, like, a little bit. And also, like, getting the high score table in and things like that. If they added multiplayer, added the high score table, and maybe more objectives as well to the different worlds, then 10 out of 10, because it was such a strong release as well. I was left with a very positive feeling of all of it, despite, like, the minor, like, complaints I've seen on Reddit. Most of the feedback was very good, I think. And I think a lot of people are having a lot of fun with it. At least I know I am. So that's my feedback. It's been quite a long video today, I have to say, but I hope you guys enjoyed it regardless. It's always nice to see what you guys have to say about the update as well, so do leave your thoughts in the comment section below. If the video helped you out or gave you some insight into all this minigame stuff at all, give the video a like, I'd appreciate it, and I'll see you guys in game. Rainy out.